Welcome to Bloomberg Law. I'm Pacchia. For anyone working in or around the legal profession, these are rather uncertain times. As we have seen in previous programs, the legal education system in America is under duress, and law firms around the world are facing substantial economic headwinds. Joining us today to help make sense of all of this, we have Markus Hartung. He is the director at the Bucerius Center on the Legal Profession. Markus, thank you so much for coming in today. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So our viewers might be familiar with Bucerius Law School. It's the first private law school in Europe. It's located in Hamburg, Germany, but it has a very international base of students. But could you tell us a little bit about the Center on the Legal Profession? What is it that you do there?
Okay. The Center on the Legal Profession is part of the postgraduate education, so part of the executive education of Bucerius. Bucerius sticks to a concept of lifelong learning, and as their core business model is educating students, they said we need a second part when it comes to training lawyers in managerial functions or not. So this center was created back in 2010. And what we do is basically we are doing research work. We try to understand legal markets, and legal markets tend to be intransparent. So it's very hard for law firm managers really to navigate through this.
Mm-hmm. So it's law school for managing partners of
it's a law school,
large law firms.
So to say, for managing partners. And what we focus on is our economics on the one hand and soft skills on the other hand. So soft skills by means of client development, business development, solving conflicts, building up relationship with clients, all things which seems to be self-explanatory. If you look in law firms, you see a lack of training there. So lawyers are trained to be good lawyers, good legal technicians.
Right.
They are not trained to be real advisors or at least entrepreneurs, for example. So that's what we are jumping in, and where we do research work on the one hand, and we develop training programs for law firm partners and for in-house legal departments to help them to better navigate through these difficult times.
So as we said in the intro, legal markets are somewhat in a state of turmoil. You have a really great top-level perspective on the international legal profession. When you look at the current state of play, what jumps out at you? How bad are things out there?
Well, things are pretty bad. Not too bad, but they are pretty bad. Starting in 2007, 2008, with the financial crisis, the amount of transaction has dramatically decreased. So that was bad times for law firms. At the same time,
now are we talking about Europe or across?
No, worldwide.
Worldwide.
With respect to clients, what clients have developed that one can apply means of value for money to law firms as well. Normally, legal advice is regarded as something which can't be really measured by financial terms. So everybody likes to stick to the billable hour. Now, clients, banks, and companies have started to really look into this and have analyzed legal advice and have started to work with legal process outsourcing providers and with smaller law firms. So for the big firms, that was a direct threat to their business model. So at the moment, there are firms which are doing very well, who have understood that and have adapted their model to these new times. There are other firms still hoping that once the crisis is over, that the good times will be back again. We think that whether this crisis will be over or not, these good times of charging by the hour without any regard to value for money, these times are definitely over.
So to countervail these market forces that it seems to be a worldwide problem, not just limited to the United States, you write about the need for innovation. It was a really great paper, but could you tell us how you started to define innovation in the legal sense?
Yeah.
I guess when you're looking to hire an attorney, innovation isn't necessarily the first characteristic that comes to mind, but you thought it was very important. Why?
Yeah, well, basically, we take the view that every industry needs innovation to survive. So look at firms like, I'm not telling any names, but some things spring to mind. If you look to the legal industry, the legal profession, innovation is not something which springs to mind. Maybe one of the reasons is that innovative legal products don't really exist, and that has a very simple reason, because these products or these brilliant ideas like Marty Lipton's poison pill, they can't be protected by patents or by law. So once you have the idea, your fellow partner or lawyer will grab this idea and will try to make a business out of it. So that's a real issue for law firms. But of course there is room for innovation, and still law firms need to innovate in two ways. One is they have to think about the way they provide their services. We call that service innovation, which is not a completely new concept. And the other point is looking at your business model, so the way you organize yourself and you manage your resources, and think about business model innovation. So what does that mean? It means that every law firm has to raise the questions, do I provide all the services by myself, by my own resources, or do I take a make or buy decision and decide whether I take other providers to, in the end, provide a more efficient and maybe less expensive service to clients and gain a competitive advantage above my competitors who still stick to the old concept of providing everything by your own expensive resources. So there is room for innovation. You have to look into it to avoid just working with buzzwords. Everything would say, well, we have to be innovative, and we are innovative. And in the end, no one really knows what innovation means. And that was for us the reason to really look into it, write a discussion paper, as we don't have answers to this. We just start to raise the right questions and then look into the market and find out whether there are models at the moment existing where you see innovative ways of providing legal services, which could be a certain precedent for other companies or law firms.
Are there law firms out there today that are employing the tactics that you advise?
Yeah, clearly yes. There are many law firms, and not just one or two. There are many law firms who have understood that concept.
Who's best at it, in your opinion?
Well, coming from a UK law firm, I'm a bit biased. But I would think that the Magic Circle firms like Linklaters and Freshfields are highly innovative. There are some firms on Wall Street or in Manhattan, firms like Wachtel, for example, Skadden, Latham & Watkins, I would regard as a DLA Piper, firms who are highly innovative, really think hard about the way they provide their services and improve their client relationships. And you can really learn from them. It is interesting that many law firms are sort of reluctant to go to their peers and just ask them, how are you doing it? And we organize roundtables to bring these people together just to start to talk about this. That's not part of the fabric of law firms, to have an exchange on how one could deal with management issues in law firms.
So apart from cloning Wachtel's leading innovator, Marty Lipton, what else are you seeing in terms of new best practices for getting international work at law firms? It's interesting. We had a lunch lecture today, and we had a panel consisting of two Pfizer in-house lawyers and one partner of DLA Piper. And we talked about the Pfizer Legal Alliance, which is an entirely new concept of buying legal services. So the concept for Pfizer was they have an external legal spend of $500 million US, and they wanted to not just to lower it, but to get better and more efficient legal services. So they have created an alliance, which is more than a panel, by deciding that every firm on this panel receives a flat fee, irrespective of the amount of work they are doing. And it is expected by Pfizer that these law firms on the panel cooperate in these highly complicated matters, which is mostly litigation. And how many law firms are on the panel?
19.
Wow.
19 law firms.
Very interesting.
Mostly US firms, but I think 3 or 4 firms with an international reach. And the thing is, as this concept goes hand in hand with a 360-degree feedback, it's a complete transparent relationship where, law firms provide feedback to each other. So how they have performed on this panel.
Right.
They provide feedback to the client. The client provides feedback to them. And at the end of the year, they get together and say, has that been fair, what we paid for these services? Do we have to pay more? They try to get away from the concept of the billable hour, because they say the billable hour just kills creativity and rewards inefficiency, which is basically right. And this model now exists for roughly 3 years. We had a very open debate about all the challenges. It's not everything rosy there.
I'm sure. I bet those year-end meetings are
these year-end meetings
really something else.
Are difficult, but as in a good marriage or in a good relationship, you have hard times. The most important thing is to talk about this and to really constantly try to improve. And I think this is one of the most innovative concepts we are seeing at the moment, which could be a certain precedent for other law firms and companies to enter into new relationships.
Well, that's absolutely fascinating. We're living in a world of change with respect to the legal profession today. Where do you see legal services being as an industry in 5 years? Is this going to be a template that you expect to see expanded? Is it going to go in another direction?
Well, if legal industry is more than just lawyers, then I think yes. The world is getting more and more complicated, so there is more need for legal services, no doubt about that. The question is whether these reserved activities for lawyers will increase, or whether one will understand that you don't always need a lawyer who has been on a law school to help you with a certain project. So what I see in 5 years, the understanding of the commoditization of legal services will have increased, and you will go to a lawyer if you have highly complicated cross-border matters where you really need that trusted relationship with a person who is not just an excellent legal technician. Many people are excellent legal technicians, but who is a real advisor who shares in your risk and understands that. But the number of these people will get smaller, I'm afraid. The number of people working in the legal profession who are not lawyers but provide excellent technical procedural service will increase.
Yeah, this is more and more feeling like a structural recession in legal services that's taking quite some time to play out. It's a long one at that. Markus, thank you so much for coming in today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's Markus Hartung. He's the director at the Center on the Legal Profession at Bucerius. If you'd like to learn more about the issues we just discussed, be sure to check out our offerings on BloombergLaw.com. You can follow our updates on Twitter and see more of our videos on YouTube. I'm Pacchia. Thanks for watching.